Hello friends. In this video I'm going to show you how to repair a blown out earlobe. What's a blown out earlobe? This is a blown out earlobe. So when I was young I stretched this earlobe too much, too quickly, and the result, as you can kind of see, is an accumulation of scar tissue that's hanging behind my lobe. So it doesn't cause me any discomfort, I just don't like the way it looks, and it is becoming very, very difficult to stretch. You can see there's a narrow, well maybe you can't because the focus is shit, but there's a narrow band of skin that is doing all of the stretching, and this chunky scrotum piece of shit doesn't want to stretch at all. It's putting too much pressure on this little piece of tissue, and I'm risking irreparably damaging my ear. So we're going to repair that today. We're going to need a pair of scissors. Okay, hygiene is important, so let's give those a quick rinse. Yeah, beauty. All right, so now this is going to be kind of difficult because I'm going to be doing this from my phone screen. Basically, the idea is to grab that piece of scar tissue, clamp it between the blade of the scissors, take a deep breath and count backwards from 3, 2, 1, and then go and see a cosmetic surgeon, you dum-dum. There are two options when considering a surgical intervention for this kind of procedure. The first would be to see a reputable body mod artist. The second would be to see a cosmetic surgeon or a skin surgeon. Body mod scene here in Australia is quite underground. There's been incidences in recent years of people being hurt and even dying as a result of botched procedures performed by cowboy practitioners. The industry has been unregulated up till this point, so the lawmakers have just sort of said, forget it, game over. The industry has sort of ground to a halt, and there's nobody really performing any kind of procedures, or if they are, they're certainly not being very public about it. I'm not going to go into that too much because A, I don't know that much about the whole sort of situation, and B, I would like very much to see the body mod scene get back on its feet in Australia. Without artists and practitioners to perform these sort of procedures, then they just don't happen. So the scene is not growing. There's nobody being introduced to this sort of culture. And I think that's kind of a shame because it's quite fun, and it's actually got a significant part of my sort of like personal development. You know, pain rituals and blood rituals are important, and rite of passage is really important. I know that I've benefited greatly from these sorts of processes. It's not just an aesthetic thing. But anyway, I've gone with the second option. I sought out a cosmetic surgeon or a skin surgeon. And I'm super stoked that I did, actually. The guy that did my procedure was a fucking legend. He was super funny, and it was very, very approachable. He'd performed similar sort of procedures many, many times, even hundreds of times. It was clear he was very, very proficient, knew exactly what I was going for, and I had full confidence in his ability to perform the procedure to a standard that I'd be really happy with. If you would not like to see graphic footage of the procedure, then maybe don't watch the next bit of this video. The surgeon was nice enough to let me film the procedure. This is, I thought, a somewhat odd request, but he was very, very open to that and just requested that I didn't film his face or his assistant nurse's face, and I completely understand that. We spoke at length about the procedure. This was a very enlightening conversation. It was explained to me that the most important thing to consider when removing blown out tissue from an earlobe or any part of the body is blood supply. He had some very sophisticated tools that were able to give him a visual representation of where the blood supply was, where the blood vessels were in my ear. He suspected the primary blood supply for my earlobe was in the blown out tissue or the bit of tissue that I wanted to remove. This posed a little bit of a risk in that if you were to remove the primary blood supply from a piece of tissue, then there's a risk of the surrounding tissue not getting the adequate blood supply that it needs to, stay alive, and potentially atrophying and dying. If you're watching this video, then you might have researched this sort of shit before and seen images and video of earlobes that have been stretched too thin, they run out of blood supply, and essentially just turn into scabby shit and then break away and just rot. He explained to me that to remove the primary blood supply from that part of my earlobe, there are risks involved, and that my anatomy would need time to heal and for that blood supply to recalibrate in that part of my body. And it would be unwise to expect too much from it too soon in terms of stretching that earlobe. So this is where I'm at now. Little Lobe Bryant, little Jennifer Lopez over here. Fucking Loeb Chomsky, just hanging out. healing. I don't know what size this tunnel is, but I'll probably just roll with this one for a long while, probably a couple of months at least, until my ear has settled down completely, till that scar tissue has settled down completely, until it's completely pain-free, and then really gently see if I can push it back up. I'd like very much to hit 45, and then I think I'm done. I think my lobes will stay at 45 millimeters. I've said that before though, and then the bug bites. We'll see. I quite like them at 45, and I have some really beautiful sets of 45 mil plugs and tunnels, so I'm quite satisfied to leave my lobes at that stage. I'm going to go so gently with this earlobe. It's really important to show your body a lot of love when it's healing. This is something that I'm sort of late to the party with. You know, the kind of self-love and self-care thing is a relatively new thing for me. It's a topic that I'll touch on in other videos, but it's just so important. And when healing modifications and healing tattoos and healing broken hearts, healing anything, it's just, it takes time and it takes patience, and it is a passive process. It is not an active process. These things take time. We just have to be patient and let our bodies reconfigure and let our bodies heal. I was a bit of a cowboy with a lot of my sort of stretching, and particularly with my lips. I did some very aggressive stretches with tapers back in the day. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of bad information as well, but there's a lot of good information around about stretching earlobes, but stretching lips, not so much. So that's something that might make a video and unpack my process, what I did wrong, and what is a better, safer way to do that. If that's of any interest to anybody, let me know. This is the first time that I've put jewelry back in my ear since the operation. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. Now, I don't know what the focus is doing. I can't see the camera, but he did a really great job of removing the blown out tissue on the back of that earlobe. So there's a scar that runs down the length of my earlobe. It's minor, it's neat, it's fine. It's still healing. There's still a little bit of tenderness there. So that's it for my lobe update at this point. I might do another follow-up in a few months' time and see if I can get a 45 back in my left earlobe. But until then, be cool, be kind, and go fuck yourself.